This is America in the Morning from Westwood One. Good morning, I'm John Trout. It's Thursday, November 21st, 2024. Here's what's coming up on America in the Morning.
The House Ethics Committee does not agree on releasing its report on Matt Gaetz. Sagar Meghani, Washington.
A verdict from the bench in the Laken Riley murder case.
Twisted and evil coward.
I'm Pamela Furr.
A parole board unanimously decides that a woman who killed her two sons should remain in prison. I'm Mike Hempen.
A law surrounding the 10 Commandments in Louisiana is still on hold.
From the original lawgiver, which was Moses.
I'm Clayton Neville.
On Wall Street, NVIDIA disappointed some investors with quarterly results last night that could move the markets today. I'm Jessica Ettinger.
The FBI says it's arrested and charged a Florida man with plotting to bomb the New York Stock Exchange. I'm Ben Thomas.
All ahead on America in the Morning. Despite a bipartisan push from the Senate to see what's in it, a GOP-led House committee said they will not release a report into allegations against former Congressman and now Attorney General-designate Matt Gaetz, who's working to shore up GOP support on Capitol Hill. Washington correspondent Sagar Meghani has the latest.
I think it would be helpful. Everybody's talking about it. It apparently was just about done. I think it would be helpful.
The resignation of Gaetz at the last minute was clearly designed to stop the public release of this information. So it's critical. If his nomination is going forward, we want to make sure that we have access to the right documentation.
The House Ethics Committee does not agree on releasing its report on allegations against former colleague Matt Gaetz, President-elect Trump's pick to head the Justice Department. Top Democrat Susan Wild says Republicans on the evenly split panel voted against making the report public.
There was no consensus on this issue. It has since come to my attention that, in fact, we had agreed that we were not going to discuss what had transpired at the meeting, but it has come to my attention that the chairman has since betrayed the process by disclosing our deliberations within moments after walking out of the committee, and he has implied that there was an agreement of the committee not to disclose the report. That is an untrue, to the extent that that suggests that the committee was in agreement or that we had a consensus on that, that is inaccurate.
As the committee met, Gaetz was looking to shore up his embattled nomination. With Vice President-elect J.D. Vance alongside, Gaetz met privately with Republican senators amid questions about sexual misconduct and other allegations. Lindsey Graham says Gaetz deserves a fair shake.
No rubber stamps and no lynch mob. I'm not going to be part of a process that leaks information that shouldn't be leaked. I'm not going to legitimize the process to destroy the man because people don't like his politics.
Some GOP senators say they want to see the House Ethics Panel report before deciding whether to confirm Gaetz, who has denied the allegations.
I was shocked by the nomination, given the many allegations, but that's why it's important that the Senate go through its process of making sure that we have a background check, that we have a Senate investigation.
Sagar Meghani, Washington.
A judge has found an illegal immigrant guilty of killing Georgia nursing student Laken Riley, handing down a maximum sentence after hearing victim impact statements, including from Riley's mother, who called her a child of God. Pamela Furr reports.
Count 1, malice murder. I find the defendant guilty.
There were gasps in the courtroom as Judge Patrick Haggard gave the verdict against Jose Ibarra on Wednesday. He's the undocumented Venezuelan convicted of murdering 22-year-old Riley as she was jogging on the University of Georgia's campus. The defense opted for a bench trial. Part of the evidence used was the suspect's DNA found under Riley's right fingernails. The family of Riley called for the judge to lock up her killer for the rest of his life. Here's Allison Phillips, Riley's mother.
There is no end to the pain, suffering, and loss that we have experienced or will continue to endure. On that horrific day, my precious daughter was attacked beaten, and shown no mercy.
The judge agreed with the family, and now Ibarra will be spending the rest of his life in prison for killing the nursing student.
This sick, twisted, and evil coward showed no regard for Laken or human life.
Following Wednesday's verdict, President-elect Donald Trump said in a post on Truth Social that although the pain and heartbreak will last forever, hopefully this can help bring some peace and closure to her wonderful family who fought for justice. And Georgia Governor Brian Kemp said in a statement that this criminal should have never been allowed to enter our country, and he certainly should not have been allowed to stay after shamelessly breaking our laws. Ibarra's attorneys are expected to appeal the verdict. I'm Pamela Furr.
Today's top stories are brought to you by Sleep Number. Why choose a Sleep Number smart bed? It's the only bed that lets you make each side firmer or softer whenever you want. Save 40% on the Sleep Number Special Edition smart bed. To find a store near you, visit sleepnumber.com. When we return on America in the Morning, the 10 Commandments on trial after these messages. Welcome back. This is America in the Morning. At the National Weather Map, here's AccuWeather.com meteorologist Matt Rindy.
We have two major storm systems on the weather map this morning. The first storm we're looking at is moving through the Great Lakes into the northeast. This system is spreading the first decent rain to reach the region in weeks or even months. And while it will not end drought conditions, it will certainly provide a needed change to the recent parched conditions. On the western side of the storm, there will be some colder air, allowing for rain to change over to snow. A few areas from eastern Wisconsin into Illinois and continuing into Indiana and Ohio will have a slushy covering of snow to as much as a few inches, the best chance of which will be earlier in the day in Wisconsin. This storm will continue to produce snow tonight as far south as Tennessee and North Carolina, and as well northward to Pennsylvania into New York. Several inches of snow will be possible to as much as a foot of snow in parts of the Catskills and Poconos. Meanwhile, in the Northwest, it will remain very active today with another significant push of rain through Northern California into southern Oregon. Rain will be very heavy along the coast with flooding, but also spread inland into northern Nevada, as well as Idaho and western Montana. The mountains will also have some snow to start the day, but it will turn warmer with most places changing over to rain. The rest of the West will be dry from Southern California into Southern Nevada and eastward to Colorado, as well as Arizona and New Mexico. Highs will be near or just above the historical average, mostly in the 50s and 60s, but a few 70s and 80s through Southern California into Arizona. That's the weather across America. It is going to be a windy and cold day in Columbus, Ohio, with some snow producing as much as an inch and a high of 37. Eugene, Oregon will have another soaking rain today with local flooding and a high of 52. That's the nation's weather. I'm AccuWeather.com meteorologist Matt Rindy.
Remember to follow us wherever you get your podcasts. Apple, Spotify, Amazon, and YouTube. Just search America in the Morning in your favorite listening app. I'm John Trout. 30 years after drowning her two sons, Susan Smith faced a South Carolina parole board for the first time and was told she will remain behind bars. Correspondent Mike Hempen reports.
The board's unanimous decision came at the first parole hearing for 53-year-old Susan Smith, who killed her children in 1994 by rolling her car into a lake while her 3-year-old and 14-month-old sons were strapped in their car seats. Smith made her case by a video link from prison, saying she was very sorry and referring to her Christian faith.
God is a big part of my life, and I know He has forgiven me.
Smith will continue serving a life sentence. She is eligible for parole every 2 years now that she has spent 30 years behind bars. Smith was sentenced to life in prison after a jury convicted her of murder. I'm Mike Hempen.
The fate of a law in Louisiana surrounding the 10 Commandments is unclear following a federal court ruling. Correspondent Clayton Neville reports.
The Fifth U.S. Circuit Court of Appeals denied a request to overturn a lower court's ruling in the case, so the legal battle continues. But the law was set to take effect January 1st. That won't happen. Now the High Court won't hear oral arguments until January 23rd, delaying when the commandments will have to be posted.
This bill mandates the display of the 10 Commandments in every classroom in public, elementary, secondary, and post-education schools in the state of Louisiana.
Republican Louisiana Governor Jeff Landry signed the bill into law earlier this year.
Because if you want to respect the rule of law, you got to start from the original lawgiver, which was Moses.
Critics, who include parents who brought the lawsuit, argue the law would isolate students, especially those who are not Christian. I'm Clayton Neville.
Comcast to sell off networks. That and more in business headlines when America in the Morning continues after these messages. We're back. This is America in the Morning. The Business Report is brought to you by Fisher Investments. Fisher Investments takes a disciplined approach with investing, helping clients navigate volatile markets. Learn more at FisherInvestments.com. Here's CNBC's Jessica Ettinger.
Wall Street opens this morning after a mixed day for stocks yesterday. The Dow snapped a 4-day losing streak, though. Bitcoin hit an all-time high very near $95,000. NVIDIA out with better than expected earnings and revenue numbers for the quarter last night after the closing bell, but stocks were ticking lower after hours as investors digested the outlook and more. This one could really impact the markets today. Comcast spinning off most of its cable TV channels into a separate publicly traded company. This includes CNBC, MSNBC, Sci-Fi, the Golf Channel, USA, and Oxygen. The Bravo channel, that's going to remain with NBC Universal under Comcast.
Can these networks stand on their own? Is news, you think about the power of news and the impact news has. Every trading desk around the world is watching this right now. This is a science experiment. Can you spin these? Will this work? Yes, you can functionally do it. Does it actually create a stable company? People were texting me last night and say the minute this press release hits, how soon until Elon says he's buying MSNBC for the fun of it? So who knows?
Lightshed's Rich Greenfield on CNBC. McDonald's getting a 2025 McValue theme ready, involving keeping a $5 value meal offer on the menu for the first half of the year, along with introducing a buy one, add one option. A tale of two retailers. Target shares tanked yesterday on a disappointing quarter, while earlier this week, Walmart reported great results.
When you go into Target, they got to do a rollback, just like that Walmart did the rollback. They got to hurt the gross margins even more. The issue for me is price. America has rebelled against anything that hasn't cut price.
CNBC Mad Money host Jim Cramer. The tech industry is just nuts. They're buzzing about a phone call between Google parent Alphabet CEO Sundar Pichai and President-elect Donald Trump, because Trump's friend, Tesla CEO Elon Musk, jumped on that phone call.
We know that Musk is by Trump's side very often. His empire directly competes with Google properties. So this was the information, great reporting from them. They did cite one source who said that Sundar Pichai was surprised, as you might imagine.
Yes, I can imagine.
A lot of potential conflicts of interest, and that phone call could just be the beginning of a new wild card emerging in big tech.
CNBC's Deirdre Bosa. On today's watch list, earnings are coming from tractor maker Deere, Gap, discounter Ross Stores, and BJ's Wholesale. We find out how many people applied for unemployment benefits last week. Paramount's Gladiator 2 and Universal's Wicked are in select theaters tonight, but they officially open tomorrow.
All right, thank you, CNBC's Jessica Ettinger. When we return on America in the Morning, planned attack on the New York Stock Exchange thwarted after these messages. This is America in the Morning. Welcome back. Some folks outside Detroit are lucky to be alive after an explosion and fire rocked a condominium building. Correspondent Hayat Panjwani has that story.
Fire officials in a township northwest of Detroit say a condominium complex building exploded. Orion Township Fire Chief Ryan Allen told reporters that 2 people were brought to hospitals with critical injuries, and at least 2 more have seen minor injuries. Allen said the cause of the explosion is not immediately known.
So we were dispatched to a building explosion.
At this time, initial reports say that it's possibly or probably a gas leak that caused an explosion. We're not sure. We haven't confirmed any of that, but that's what the initial looks like. We don't know where in the building it would be.
That audio is courtesy of WXYZ. Allen also said that firefighters were waiting to enter the building to determine the cause of the explosion. I'm Haya Panjwani.
A 9-month FBI investigation has led to the arrest of a Florida man who was allegedly planning an attack on the New York Stock Exchange. Correspondent Ben Thomas reports.
Court documents indicate the suspect told FBI agents he wanted to detonate the bomb this week because it'll wake people up. He's identified as 30-year-old Haroon Abdul Malik Yenner of Coral Springs, Florida, and described in court records as unhoused. The FBI began investigating him in February based on a tip that he was storing bomb-making schematics in a storage unit. They found sketches, watches with timers, electronic circuit boards, and other electronics that could be used for building explosive devices. The FBI says it conducted online searches for bomb making since 2017. I'm Ben Thomas.
America in the Morning for Thursday, November 21st, 2024 is produced by Jeff McKay. Senior producer Kevin Delaney. I'm John Trout. This is Westwood One. This is America in the Morning from Westwood One. I'm John Trout. Coming up this half hour.
More cabinet picks by President-elect Trump and more controversies surrounding Matt Gaetz. I'm Clayton Neville.
The U.S. has vetoed a UN resolution demanding an immediate ceasefire in the Gaza war. Sagar Meghani, Washington.
The former Georgia election workers have asked a judge to hold Rudy Giuliani in contempt. I'm Sue Aller.
Judge says alleged Idaho killer could face the death penalty. And a bomb cyclone zaps power in the Pacific Northwest.
T-Mobile superheroic admins stop a major cyber breach. I'm Chuck Palm.
Co-hosts of The View spar on air over political disagreements. I'm Kevin Carr.
Back after these messages. This is America in the Morning, east and west, bookends of major storms. Here's AccuWeather.com meteorologist Matt Rindy.
We are watching two major storm systems across the U.S. this morning. Starting in the northwest, it will remain very active again today with another significant push of rain through northern California into southern Oregon. Some areas have already had more than 5 inches of rain, so some of this rain will continue to be very heavy along the coast with flooding, but also spread inland into northern Nevada as well as Idaho and western Montana. The mountains will have some snow to start the day, but it will turn warmer with most places changing over to rain. The rest of the west will be dry from southern California into southern Nevada and eastward to Colorado, as well as Arizona and New Mexico. Highs will be near or above the historical average, mostly in the 50s and 60s, but a few 70s and 80s through southern California into Arizona. The Plains states will also enjoy quieter weather overall with sunshine for most areas. Temperatures will be ranging from the 20s and 30s in the far north in the Dakotas into Minnesota and warming to the 60s and 70s into Texas and Louisiana. This quieter weather will also continue through the rest of the Gulf Coast states. But the other storm is in the Great Lakes and Northeast, and it's spreading the first meaningful rain to reach the region in weeks. While it will not be enough to end drought conditions, it will certainly be a needed change from the recent dry conditions. On the western side of the system, there will be enough cold air for rain to change over to snow, and a few areas from eastern Wisconsin into Illinois and continuing into Indiana and Ohio will have a slushy covering of snow to as much as a few inches. The best chance for accumulating snow will be earlier in the day in parts of eastern Wisconsin. This storm will continue to produce snow tonight as far south as Tennessee and North Carolina, northward through Pennsylvania into New York. That's the nation's weather. I'm AccuWeather.com meteorologist Matt Rindy.
I'm John Trout. Remember to follow us wherever you get your podcasts. Apple, Spotify, Amazon, and YouTube. Just search America in the Morning in your favorite listening app. President-elect Donald Trump continues to build his cabinet with untraditional picks as speculation over potential trouble during the confirmation process continues in Washington. Correspondent Clayton Neville reports.
President-elect Donald Trump naming another TV personality to his cabinet. Last week, he named Pete Hegseth, a Fox News host, as defense secretary. Well, this week, Fox Business host and former reality TV star Sean Duffy tapped for Secretary of Transportation. Trump also announced that Brendan Carr will head the FCC. He's currently the senior Republican commissioner at the FCC. And an unconventional pick for Education Secretary, a familiar name from the wrestling world.
CEO of World Wrestling Entertainment, a classy woman.
Wrestling mogul Vince McMahon's wife, Linda McMahon, picked for the job. She stepped down from her position as WWE's CEO to enter politics. She ran twice for U.S. Senate in Connecticut, but lost both times. Meanwhile, there's pushback in D.C. against Trump's selection for Attorney General, former Congressman Matt Gaetz. He was being investigated by the House Ethics Committee for a number of accusations, including allegedly having sex with a teenage girl. A committee meeting was held yesterday, and ranking member Democrat Susan Wild spoke to reporters.
We had agreed that we were not going to discuss what had transpired at the meeting, but it has come to my attention that the chairman has since betrayed the process by disclosing our deliberations within moments after walking out of the committee. And he has implied that there was an agreement of the committee not to disclose the report. That is an untrue, to the extent that that suggests that the committee was in agreement or that we had a consensus on that, that is inaccurate.
She did say a vote was taken.
That in order to affirmatively move something forward, somebody has to cross party lines and vote with the other side, which happens a lot, by the way, and we often vote unanimously. That did not happen in today's vote.
The committee expected to meet again about its ethics investigation December 5th. The probe essentially ended when Gaetz resigned from Congress after Trump announced him as his choice for AG. I'm Clayton Neville.
A lone veto from the United States stopped a United Nations resolution to implement an immediate Gaza war ceasefire. As Washington correspondent Sagar Meghani reports, missing from the UN plan was any mention of the more than 100 hostages held by Hamas terrorists or any language to release them.
To the nations supporting this shameful text, how will you explain to the families of the 101 hostages, some of whom are citizens of Security Council members, that their loved ones are not worth demanding freedom as a condition for a ceasefire?
The Security Council vote was 14-1 in favor of the resolution, but the U.S. veto killed it.
These two urgent goals are inextricably linked. This resolution abandoned that necessity, and for that reason, the United States could not support it. Simply put, this resolution would have sent a dangerous message to Hamas. There's no need to come back to the negotiating table.
Deputy U.S. Ambassador Robert Wood says the Biden administration worked for weeks to avoid a veto. But since the resolution is not linked to an immediate release of hostages,
we made clear throughout negotiations we could not support an unconditional ceasefire that failed to release the hostages. Because, as this council has previously called for, a durable end to the war must come with the release of the hostages.
Israeli Ambassador Danny Danon said earlier the resolution was an outrage, a betrayal of the 101 hostages.
This is not a resolution for peace. It is a resolution for appeasement. It abandons the hostages, rewards Hamas, and emboldens those who believe that violence can achieve their aims.
But Algeria's ambassador blasted the veto, saying the actual reward is for Israel, which is now free to continue its genocide of Palestinians.
In this chamber, you enjoy immunity.
Sagar Meghani, Washington.
The U.S. Embassy in Ukraine's capital was closed amid fears of a Russian air attack. As correspondent Charles de Ledesma reports, this comes as the U.S. not only agreed to supply Kyiv with anti-personnel mines for the battlefield, but also more ammunition aid.
Biden's decision to let Ukraine strike targets on Russian soil with U.S.-made weapons, a move that has angered the Kremlin.
The landmines that we would look to provide them
would be landmines that are not persistent. You know, we can control when they would self-activate, self-detonate, and that makes it far more safer eventually than the things that they are creating on their own.
The US Embassy in Kyiv, Ukraine, says it would stay closed after receiving a warning of a potentially significant Russian air attack on the capital. The precautionary step comes after Russian officials promised a response to President Joe Biden's decision to let Ukraine strike targets on Russian soil with US-made long-range missiles, a move that's angered the Kremlin.
Because the Russians have been so unsuccessful in the way that they have been fighting, they've kind of changed their tactics a bit, and they don't lead with their mechanized forces anymore. They lead with dismounted forces who are able to close and do things to kind of pave the way for mechanized forces. So that's what the Ukrainians are seeing right now, and they have a need for things that can help slow down that effort on the part of the Russians.
Ukrainian long-range strikes against military objects within Russia's rear are crucial for degrading Russian military capabilities throughout the theatre. Meanwhile, North Korea recently supplied additional artillery systems to Russia, according to the South. Seoul adds North Korean soldiers were assigned to Russia's Marine and Airborne Force units, and some of them have already begun fighting alongside the Russians on the front lines. I'm Charles de Ledesma.
When we return on America in the Morning, accused killer's creative defense, and an update on the West Coast bomb cyclone after these messages. Welcome back. I'm John Trout. This is America in the Morning. An Idaho judge has ruled that Brian Kohberger, the man accused of killing 4 University of Idaho students in 2022, can face the death penalty. Kohberger's defense team had sought to remove the death penalty as a possible punishment should he be convicted, arguing that forcing inmates to wait for years on death row and the methods available for prisoners to be executed in Idaho both constitute cruel and unusual punishment. The judge overseeing the case denied the motion. Kohberger's defense team had previously convinced the court to have the trial moved to Boise over concerns their client would not receive a fair trial. His case is scheduled to begin next August. Sue Aller reports that the 2 former Georgia election workers who won a massive defamation judgment against Rudy Giuliani are claiming false accusations continue.
Rudy Giuliani has continued to make defamatory comments about the 2 Georgia poll workers, Ruby Freeman and Shay Moss, despite a court order prohibiting him from repeating false claims that they engaged in election fraud during the 2020 presidential election. On Wednesday in Washington, D.C., the attorney for Freeman and Moss have asked a judge to hold Giuliani in contempt and impose further penalties because, the attorney says, that on November 12th, Giuliani mentioned them again on his recent broadcast of his nightly show, America's Mayor Live, on the social media platform X, saying that the women were fraudsters. Giuliani filed for bankruptcy after he was ordered to pay the women $148 million. He also agreed not to make any further false statements about them. Freeman and Moss say they were subjected to threats and harassment. The accusations against them have been debunked by surveillance video and witness testimony. I'm Sue Aller.
There are power outages this morning from Central California through Greater Seattle with roads under floodwaters and some covered in snow. Correspondent Haya Panjwani reports on the bomb cyclone in the Pacific Northwest.
So a bomb cyclone is a term that's referred to one of these areas of low pressure that undergoes a really rapid intensification. And the way that's measured is by how quickly and by how much it drops its pressure in the center of the system.
A major storm sweeping across the northwest United States with strong winds and rain caused widespread power outages and debris.
We have a lot of road closures, especially on the arterial streets.
That's Maddie Christel with the National Weather Service in Washington.
With big trees down, We've seen some in the Bellevue area east of Seattle that it almost looked like really big old growth trees came down with this. And those are, some of the more well-established trees here. So to see those come down is quite significant.
Downed trees killed at least 2 people. The Weather Prediction Center issued excessive rainfall risks through Friday, and hurricane-force wind warnings are still in effect.
These types of systems, whether they occur in the Northwest, the Atlantic even isn't a stranger to these types of cyclones. It is possible that we could see more of these, down the line.
I'm Haya Panjwani.
T-Mobile has had a rough go of it with cyber breaches in the past. Now it looks like their IT department may have thwarted an attack in progress. Here's Chuck Palm with that in today's Tech Report.
In a surprise twist to a major cyber breach, T-Mobile has actually stopped hackers from stealing customer data. Bloomberg has reported that T-Mobile, who has not exactly had the best record against hackers, has managed to stop a cyber attack in progress and shut it down in time. Admins detected suspicious activity in a recent attempt to access customer data and kick the cyber criminals out before they were able to infiltrate deeper levels of the network. T-Mobile did not confirm or deny that this coincides with the large Salt Typhoon attack from the Chinese hackers last week that targeted members of the Trump and Harris campaigns as well as other major communications networks. T-Mobile had been ordered in the past by the Department of Justice to lock down their network and keep their customer data more secure. This after a major breach last year where they lost 37 million customers' data. Good job, T-Mobile. Kudos to you. Follow me on X @ChuckPalm.
Thursday Sports is in. Here's America in the Morning's Robert Workman.
Baseball handed out its Cy Young Awards last night to Tarek Skubal of the Tigers, the unanimous choice in the American League, and the Braves' Chris Sale in the National League. Each lefty led his league in wins, ERA, and strikeouts. That's the pitching triple crown. League MVPs will be announced tonight. NBA, the Cavaliers routed the Pelicans 128-100 a night after suffering their first loss of the season. Cleveland now 16-1. Clippers sailed past the Magic, ending Orlando's 6-game winning streak. Bucks blasted the Bulls 41 for Giannis Antetokounmpo. Jalen Brunson and Karl Anthony Towns combined for 70 as the Knicks eclipsed the Suns. Grizzlies got by the Sixers. Philadelphia's Paul George re-injured his left knee. Wins for the top 3 teams out west, the Warriors, the Thunder, and the Rockets. College basketball, number 3 Gonzaga rolled over Long Beach State. 8th-ranked Alabama, top number 25 Illinois. Women's hoops, number 1 South Carolina beat rival Clemson for its 43rd consecutive victory, a new school record. The Gamecocks have now won 85 of their last 86 games, including 2 national titles. And number 2 Connecticut whipped Fairleigh Dickinson, giving coach Gino Auriemma win number 1,217. It's the most in college basketball history, men's or women's. Hockey shutouts for the Maple Leafs, the Kraken, and the Sabres. Wins for the Hurricanes and Stars. And NFL Week 12 kicks off tonight with the Steelers at the Browns. That's Thursday Sports.
Thank you, sir. When we return on America in the Morning, The View versus Donald Trump. After these messages. This is America in the Morning. It's been a free-for-all between the hosts of ABC TV's The View all over Donald Trump and his cabinet choices. Kevin Carr reports.
The co-hosts of The View have been wading in some rocky political waters recently. On Tuesday, former prosecutor and co-host Sonny Hostin sounded off about Donald Trump's Attorney General nominee Matt Gaetz.
How could you nominate someone with allegations of child trafficking trafficking across state lines and having sex with a 17-year-old?
Later in the show, co-host Whoopi Goldberg directed Hostin to read a prepared statement about the legal matter.
Matt Gaetz has long denied all allegations, calling the claims, quote, invented. That DOJ investigation was closed with no charges being brought.
Then on Wednesday's show, Hostin got into an on-air spat with co-host Alyssa Farah Griffin over Trump's pick of Linda McMahon as Secretary of Education. Houston disagreed with directing public funds to private schools. Griffin, who served in the Trump administration, struggled to find room for a rebuttal.
Because I have children and because I looked at
I went to public school. I believe you got to go to private school.
There is zero statistical significance.
You got to go to private school.
Again, Goldberg had to step in and play moderator.
We're going to come back.
Yes.
Because you can't, what's happening is no one can hear anything anyone is saying, so everybody has to
on it so we can talk.
Well,
since the November 5th election, Houston and Griffin have gotten into several heated arguments about politics during the Hot Topic segment of the show. It appears that the country, or at least these talk show hosts, remains divided. I'm Kevin Carr.
The world premiere of the Alec Baldwin movie Rust debuted in Poland, but one notable person is boycotting it. Entertainment correspondent Margie Zaraletta reports.
Rust is premiering at the International Film Festival of the Art of Cinematography Camera Image in Torun, Poland. The premiere is dedicated to cinematographer Helena Hutchins, who was shot on the set in Santa Fe, New Mexico in 2021. Star and co-producer Alec Baldwin pointed a gun at Hutchins during a rehearsal when it went off. A New Mexico judge dismissed an involuntary manslaughter charge against him. Hutchins' mother, Olga Solovey, says she refuses to attend the premiere because Baldwin has refused to apologize to her and will unjustly profit from killing her daughter. I'm Margie Zaraletta.
It's called conceptual art, and this particular piece consists of a simple banana duct taped to a wall. Back in 2019, a similar banana duct taped on a white wall sold for $120,000. This time around, the bidding at the famous Sotheby's auction house in New York began at $800,000 and immediately jumped over $1 million. The winning bid may be enough to buy a banana farm, a whopping $6.2 million. Shortly after the sale, Sotheby's revealed that Justin Sun, a Chinese collector and founder of a cryptocurrency platform, had acquired the work. Sun, as the winning bidder, will receive a roll of duct tape and one banana, as well as a certificate of authenticity and official instructions for installing the work, which may in fact prove that we have gone bananas. America in the Morning for Thursday, November 21st, 2024 is produced by Jeff McKay, senior producer Kevin Delaney. I'm John Trout. This is Westwood One.